Welcome to Tibara's Den. My name is Whitney and welcome to another speed build. It's Saturday, so this is our bonus video for the month. If you don't know what's going on, we are doing our zodiac series, and so each month we are doing the main Western zodiac that corresponds with that month and their Chinese zodiac twin 1 week, and then for the remaining weeks until it's time for the next Western zodiac, we are doing Primal Zodiacs, and that just combines your Western zodiac with your Chinese zodiac. And so of course we're doing Taurus right now, and so we've already created Taurus and their Chinese zodiac twin of the snake, and now this is the first house under Taurus, and then the next 2 weeks we'll work on the second house. And so we've already created the sims for this house. If you haven't seen any of the previous videos, check those out. I'll leave the playlist linked in the description below, as well as at the end of this video, and also all the information, the websites where I got all the information for this series are also in the description below, so definitely check those out if you want to learn more. But this is what we're working with here, and so I had actually already built this and ended up bulldozing it because I was trying to make it 3 stories, kind of like what I did with my Aries house, and it wasn't happening, especially since I had this little center area and I knew I wanted a skylight over that. It wasn't going to happen having 3 stories. So I ended up bulldozing the whole lot and then redoing it. And of course I needed to do my layout as I went because I needed to make sure I had enough rooms for all the different sims. So for each Primal Zodiac set, there's 6 sims. So there's 2 different houses, 6 sims in each house. And so I really needed to make sure I had enough room. And fortunately I did. And I did have a lot extra room on the outside, unfortunately. I would have liked to do a lot more because a lot of the sims in this group they want fancy homes. So a couple of them have the mansion baron aspiration. One of them has the fabulously wealthy aspiration. They just like fancy homes. And so kind of my thought process, because I knew I wanted to keep it close to where I put the original build for Taurus and Snake, I wanted, the lot sizes to be the same for the second house as well. And so I knew I wanted it on this lot. So I kind of had to figure out my story and how to make it work. So I figured they have this, old family home, and they're renovating it and modernizing it and making it a little bit more fancy as they go along. So that's kind of my story I'm going with for this set of sims, and I really like how this build turned out. The only thing you'll see here is I struggled a lot with the sunroof, but I had to remember how to do it. I've seen multiple videos like Deli did and things like that showing you how to do a sunroof, but it was still kind of a struggle, and so that was a little bit difficult. But the siding, I ended up going with eco lifestyle siding, and I kind of wish I had gone with the first siding I had put on, which you'll see here in a little bit, because I think it looks better, but it just didn't look quite like fancy enough for me, I guess. And even the eco lifestyle isn't fancy, but one of the sims is also kind of an idealist and their aspiration is eco innovator, and so I wanted to combine that in as well. But I did go with a lot of black with the pink. So for Taurus, their lucky color is pink, and on the main build I did pink and white, and I just view that as kind of more soft and romantic, where this one I wanted it a little bit more polished, and so that's why I went with the black instead. And so that's kind of what we're working with here. And you can see I'm just kind of getting all my doors set out, making sure my layout's good, and then of course, putting in windows and the siding. And so this is the siding I liked here. I think it looks really cool looking back as I was editing, but in game I just didn't feel like it was quite the right theme I was going for. But I do kind of wish I had kept it because I think it looks a little bit better than this pink siding that I went with, but this is the siding I ended up using. And then I changed the columns to light pink and black, and then I put black trim around there as well. And I don't think it looks bad, it just kind of looks I don't know what the terms are. I'm not good at the different terms, modern or industrial or whatever the case may be. So, but it just kind of worked for the purpose I was going for. And then I was kind of playing around with windows, and I was going to use these windows here, but I decided the long ones were just too long. I wanted that size but shorter, and so I kind of had to find a window that were similar to those but fit the bill. And I was fortunate enough to find what I was looking for, and so I used these windows here, and then we have the big windows and then also the small windows to go along with it. And lots of windows in this build. I figured they would like a lot of light. They probably didn't care about money or anything like that, so they put a lot of windows to get a lot of light in this build, for sure. So, but yeah, this is my kind of what we're working with here. We have quite the group of Sims here, and even though I didn't have a lot of outdoor space, I was able to utilize it well, I think. The only thing I wanted to add that I couldn't was fencing, and I really wish you could add fencing on like the edge of the lot. Like, I wish they would allow that. The housing obviously one grid in, but you could add the fencing on the very edge of the lot, because that would have helped me out so much with this build. But unfortunately, you can't do that in the Sims, so it is what it is. But yeah, this is kind of what we're working with. I decided to go with small windows on the side just because it worked better. I don't like beds under windows. I don't know why. I really don't. So I wanted these small windows so I kind of had an area where I can kind of put beds in between them and things like that. So that's kind of what we're working with. And then black flooring on the decks. And I like the stone trim around the foundation and these stone stairways. I think they looked really nice as well. And then of course I gotta add in my cheats because I forgot to in the beginning. And so out front here, it's not like some of my other builds where there's a lot going on. We have like the trash and the recycle thing there, and then I do put like a recycler out there as well. I wanted to kind of tie in my eco innovator sim, little aspects of him in this build as well. I did put trees. They're kind of heavy on one side. Normally I would have done them in opposite corners, but I wanted the pool on this side because I wanted like a little seating area and dining area straight off the deck. But I didn't want a tree directly over the pool, thinking like leaves falling in there and things like that. Like that, even though it's The Sims and it doesn't matter, my practical brain, if this was real life, you wouldn't put a tree there. And so the trees are kind of heavy on one side, but it worked for the layout I was going for. So that side does look a little awkward, and like I said, I would have loved to be able to put a fence there or something to kind of just balance it out a little bit because it's kind of empty on that side. But unfortunately, kind of limited, and I had to pick and choose what I wanted to do. And I'm not the greatest builder to begin with anyway, so that kind of plays a part in it as well. But you have your little pool here. I definitely see these Sims as the type that would want a pool, even though it's not huge or anything like that. And then I also give them a hot tub, which you will see here in a little bit. And then for this area, I didn't like how it just ended, so I decided to kind of go on a diagonal as it ended there, so it didn't look so funky. And that's another thing, and I know other people have complained, sometimes it's really hard to tie in your landscaping on your lot to the landscaping around it. It can be difficult sometimes, but I think I was able to make it work. And then I put a bush here and then a bush on the other side of the pool, just kind of have some plants on that side as well, framing the pool. And then I had to decide kind of what I wanted to do as far as plants around the rest of the build and landscaping around the rest of the build. I didn't want it too plant heavy because there is going to be like a little flower garden and things like that, but I knew I needed something, and so I put like these little plants here. Probably don't take much, just a little bit of watering, some weeding, which my florist would definitely be more than willing to do. So we have those there, and then on each side I put a couple of bushes, nothing too fancy, and then of course some grass around the trees, a little bit of grass on that corner there. The other corners, you know, wasn't really able to put landscaping on them just because of how they were kind of set up and things like that. And then I kind of struggled with what I wanted to put on these sides, so I tried a bunch of different plants and things like that. And in the end, I managed to go into the flowers and find like little flower bushes, and that worked nicely for over here. So that's what I ended up using. But it was kind of a bit of a struggle trying to figure out what I wanted to do here. Not the best at landscaping anyway, and like I said, normally I would have loved to put a fence, but it wasn't gonna happen for this build. So I needed the room for all these Sims and all their things that they want. So this is kind of what we're working with here. Just going around putting the dirt in, which is definitely a key. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty okay. You know, not the best. And then I bring the diagonal on the other side as well, just to kind of even it out. And I do like the tree there. I think it's really pretty and it works nicely with the setting, like the patio stuff that I do put out there. So that's kind of what we're working with. And then I have like a little pathway up here. I struggled a little bit with that, as you see. I couldn't decide what I wanted to use, so I went back and forth with it, but I ended up settling on this. And this is where I decided I kind of wanted to fence in a little flower garden just to keep, you know, other Sims and people out. So that's what we're working with here. But I didn't want like a big fence there, so I just put this little fence, this little baby fence there, which works nicely. And I think it looks really good, and I like that she has her little flower area, and then she can arrange flowers on the table there as well. It was a bit of a struggle trying to fit in all the different flowers, but I was able to get it done. So thankfully she has all the different flowers. I went in debug and just stuck them out, and then she goes in and plants them, which is nice. But it is a little bit tight, but she has all the flowers she needs, and I think it looks really pretty. And then I went heavily on flowers inside, which you will see like there's flowers everywhere in any corner. I put flowers, and I just see her doing that. You know, she would put the pieces together and put them around the house and things like that. So but if you didn't see Monday or Friday's video, you know, you don't really have an idea of the Sims I'm talking about. So I definitely hope you will check those out so you kind of know who I'm talking about. But I really like this little area, and I think it works nicely. I was trying to figure out the placement of the flowers so I can make sure she could get to each of them to plant, because sometimes that's a problem with the Sims as well. But when I had her playing and planting, she was able to plant them all, so it worked out nicely in the end. But yeah, that's her little area, and I think it's really cute, and I'm really glad I was able to get that done for her. And we're just going to finish up here. So I do some window boxes. Again, my florist Sim, I can definitely see her taking pride in that. I didn't go too crazy. I just did the 3 windows. I probably could have put in a few more, but in the end I just wanted to do that. And then a little seating area under this tree. Probably don't utilize this too much with the trash cans and such there, but I definitely wanted a seating area in case somebody came by for a visit and they didn't want to invite them in or something like that. So that's kind of what we're working with. And then I knew I wanted a recycle machine for my eco sim, because, you know, I again wanted to tie in him to this build as well, especially with everybody else kind of wanting fancy things and things like that, where he's a little bit more of an idealist. So that's kind of what we're working with here. And then back here, of course, we have our grill area, and I do a little like drink portion on the wall with some cabinets and counters and things like that. Some flowers out here as well, and then the patio itself is pretty nice. I give them a hot tub, I do some loungers, I give them a little dining table so they can eat out here sometimes. I give them the little cooler, you know, so they can put drinks and such in there if they're entertaining, and then just like a couple little seating areas as well, which looks pretty cool. With, of course, the fire table, which is my favorite. I think I use it in pretty much every build. And so this is a little seating area under the tree. And then, again, the loungers, which I kind of had a hard time placing, and I wasn't sure how easily they would be able to get by. But fortunately, it works out nicely. They can squeeze by there no problem. So it is a little cramped, but they have everything they need out here to kind of entertain and just enjoy each other's company, which I think is pretty cool. And then a couple of love seats here, and the only thing I don't like is I did put the chair kind of off the lot there. So that is kind of like glaringly obvious to me, but, again, kind of tight space here. And then I just put like a little table behind the loungers there. I ended up putting some plants there, things like that, just kind of trying to tie it all in together. I think I put like a fruit bowl there, or, just where they can set out some stuff, not necessarily on the table itself. And then of course they would have a speaker for some music, things like that. And this definitely needed some plants around the place to kind of tie in, my Sims who really like the plants and things like that. So it's kind of what we're working with here, and then just gonna find some clutter to place on the table so it's not so empty. And like I said, I'm pretty sure I do like some fruit there, and again some more flowers, a couple of wine glasses next to the loungers, just little things like that. And I knew I wanted a bar here as well that was actually functional. I didn't have room for a full bar, so that's why I did the little globe bar there that they could actually utilize, since the other one on the wall is unfortunately just for decorations. I wish that one they could, get drinks from too or something, but that's okay. And now I'm trying to figure out my wallpaper here, and I was trying to think fancy. So I did test out a couple different wallpapers. You can see I'm still leaning on the pink here, and I keep that throughout. I do try to kind of change it up a little bit. So like my kitchen ends up being black instead of pink. It has pink flooring, but the wallpaper ends up being black. But these lights I end up keeping for them. I think I ended up keeping them all around, but it was kind of, trying to figure out what I wanted to do here and things like that. But this is kind of where I decided to quit for the day and come back in fresh the next day, which you will see here. And so now we're kind of playing around with some wallpaper again, and I ended up going more plain for like the living room area, and then this area here, which is again the indoor garden area. This is for my botanist sim, and so she has her little area where she can grow vegetables and fruits and things, and she's also the main cook. If you didn't see, I think she was on Monday's video, she's the yak, and they make like good chefs or gardeners or things like that. And so I decided to make her a gardener, but she would be the main cook in the house as well. So I like the idea of her having like a little garden directly off the kitchen inside where she could grow things all year long. I thought that was pretty cool. So that's kind of what we're working with here, and now we are working on the kitchen itself. And I wanted kind of a tie-in to the living room as well. And the living room down here, there's two different areas. So this is more like your formal sitting room, so if you have guests or company. So there's no TV or anything like that. And then their actual like living room where they watch TV and things like that is actually upstairs. So you'll see that when I get to that point. And then a dining room table going around here. And I think I utilized the space pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing here. And I actually do an indoor bar. Since I wasn't able to put a bar outside, I went ahead and put one inside, which I think turns out, again, really, really nice. And you can see I have to put my cheese back on since it's a new day. Kind of lowered my windows. I messed the one up. I went too low, but I do fix that. And so yeah, this is kind of what we're working with. Again, black and pink, tying that all in together, and just kind of figuring out what I'm doing from there. Curtains I struggled with hardcore because it was a mess trying to find curtains that I liked with the wallpaper, and tying in, the curtains for the big windows with the small windows. And so it's kind of a little bit rough, and this is kind of where I play around more with my wallpaper and figure out what I want to do. And then I don't know why the curtains clip differently on each window. Like one will clip high and one will clip lower. And so it's kind of a struggle to get the right angle to make sure they're all on the same level. You can see, yeah, I'm kind of tweaking around with that because fiddling, trying to get the right angle so all the curtains are on the same level, which is a little bit frustrating, but that's The Sims for you. I thought about going with black wallpaper here, but then I didn't like the doors. I didn't like the black on black, and I really liked these doors specifically. I liked the pattern in them and the detail on the knob and everything like that. I thought that was kind of a fancy touch. So I knew I wanted to keep these doors, so I was really trying to find a wallpaper that I thought worked in here. But it was a bit frustrating trying to figure that out, and I ended up going with the wallpaper from the paranormal pack upstairs with the gold leaf, and then in the hallways and such down here as well. So a little bit frustrating trying to figure that out, but I was able to get it done and figure it out in the end. So that's kind of where we're at with this. Still kind of playing around trying to figure everything out, and then this is where I'm deciding which bar to use. I wanted a bigger bar, but again, just space wise it was a bit too much. I thought maybe moving the dining room table to the actual kitchen, but I didn't like that either, and so I ended up using a smaller bar in this area, which does work. And then I do like a little backdrop behind it with some cabinets and things like that. So in the end, I do think it turned out nicely, and then that's kind of when I decided I didn't like the wallpaper. I just didn't like how it looked, so I ended up kind of changing that around too. I put a little buffet over there. I forgot to decorate the top of the buffet though, so that is one thing that didn't get done. And then I wasn't originally planning on putting laundry over here, but I didn't know what to do with this space, and I knew they would have laundry. There's no way they would be going to a laundromat. So I ended up putting laundry in that space there to kind of fill it up, and it actually works really nicely. And the only thing is I forgot to give hampers in each of the rooms. So none of the rooms have hampers. I meant to go back in because I realized I forgot about halfway through, and I thought, well, that's okay. I'll go back in and I'll just do a hamper. Like, I'll do that specifically because for each of the Sims I went with like a different color scheme. And so I didn't want to kind of jump around, and I was already halfway done. So I told myself I would go back, and then I ended up never doing that. So that is something that I still need to go in and make sure they all have hampers, so clothes aren't just strewn all over the floors, because that will happen. So now I'm working on the little seating area here, which again, no TV, and I wasn't really sure where I was going to put a TV with all the windows in this space. So it kind of worked out that this is a little bit more of a formal seating area, but I did want like a little music player somewhere in here, so I ended up doing the little amp stereo to kind of fit in that space there, so that way they have music they can play if they are entertaining. Some lamps, a little book centerpiece, and then a bookshelf kind of fit tucked in behind the counter chairs there. So that's kind of what we're working with, and then this is where I decided to change. So I was going to go with the black flooring, still didn't like the wallpaper, so trying to figure out which wallpaper to use. And when I decided to go with black wallpaper, then I decided that was too much black, and so I ended up changing the flooring. So the kitchen's a little bit darker, but I think it's a nice contrast to the rest of the house. So this is kind of what we're working with here, and I really like how it turned out. Like I said, I think this is maybe one of my favorite kitchens I've done. Still not so sure about the living room, mainly because of the curtains, but I had such a hard time finding curtains that I liked, that I thought went well with everything. So the curtains kind of are what they are. And now this is the little gardening area that's inside for food, plants, and things like that. And so I ended up using these here. I like, again, a little bit more modern. And so I kind of liked how they tied in to the rest of the build while still being very like earthy and plant friendly. things like that. So that's kind of what we're working with. I did some of the vertical plants, and then I didn't feel like going back and debug, so I just got a bunch of the plant seed packets and placed them down so she could go in and open them. I did have to get rid of one of those containers. I was trying to put like an apple tree in there or something, and it just wouldn't take. There wasn't enough room, so there ends up only being one container over there. And I think I do use the apple tree. I had a plantain tree and an apple tree, and I just see doing apples more often, so I ended up putting an apple tree in there. And then the dried herbs on the wall, things like that. And then for this little area, you know, it's kind of an awkward area there. How many times can I say area, right? But it's a little bit awkward, so I was trying to figure out how to utilize that space, and I do end up putting like a little seating area, and then I do put a bunch of plants and such in the corner, and then of course a table where they can put things on as they walk in, but it ends up having a lot of plants, so there's really not a lot of room for them to place things down. I have these fancy little chairs here, which kind of seem odd and don't really tie into the rest of the place, but at the same time I think they work because I can see, you know, especially the more materialistic Sims being like, oh, these are super expensive and fancy, and like maybe that's a point of pride. And so like somebody comes visit and they're sitting there chatting, and, oh, I got these chairs from, you know, this place for this much money or whatever, and they can just kind of brag on these really oddball chairs that don't really fit in. So that's kind of what I was going for there. And then just a lot of plants we kind of fill in this awkward area. And like I said, it does tie in well because, you know, you have two gardeners in the house. One's a florist and one's more focused like on food and such, but they're still both gardeners, and so being very plant heavy in this house is definitely fits with the overall theme too. Like I said, there's a lot of different contrasting characters in this build, so I do think in the end it works out nicely. And then just trying to figure out what to put on the walls here. I do change the little hedgehog, as cute as he is. I find one that's more like plant based, and so I put that up instead of going up the stairs. So there's that. And now we are on to our first bathroom, and yeah, pretty simple. I normally don't do like the little odd like bump outs, but in this case I knew it worked for this bathroom, and so I liked that I was able to do that to kind of be able to center the doors, because I really hate when doors are like on the edge of a wall. That drives me insane, and so I really like to center them, but sometimes you don't always have the room if you do that, so doing that little bump out allowed me to do that. And then of course the struggle was with the window and trying to find a towel that kind of fit in there, but I had that custom content towel, and so that worked nicely. And then a sink with a extra long counter, and then just a toilet and some toilet paper, tied in some black tile there for the floor. And now we are on to the upstairs bathrooms, and if you've seen my previous videos, you know I like to copy and paste for my bathrooms, so that's what I do. I just copy and move everything up to the different bathrooms, and I kind of keep my bathrooms very exact. Like, I don't like to change my bathrooms up too much, and it's just mainly because I don't want to do all that thinking power. Sometimes I'll change the master bath, but past that it's just like nah. So that's kind of what we're working with here. And in the master bath I do change the color a little bit, which you'll see here in a little while. And then of course double sink in this bathroom, because you have 4 Sims that are sharing, well 3, you have 3 Sims up here that are sharing this bathroom, 2 Sims down in the lower bathroom, and then of course the 1 Sim that has their own bathroom. So that's kind of what we're working with. Kind of a lot of space in here, but it's a little bit of an awkward space, and so I don't do too much. I don't want it to be too crowded. It is a bigger bathroom, but that's kind of what we're working with there. I do put some trash bins in, as always. You gotta have those. It just makes it a little bit more realistic looking, I think, in my mind. So that's kind of what we're working with here. I do put lights in eventually. You know, it took me a little while, but I do get there eventually. So you will see that here in a little bit. And then to kind of help fill in that space, of course, I do one of the, I don't even know what it's called, like an organization shelf thing. And then more plants. You gotta have all the plants in these builds. So that's what we're working with here. And then finding curtains as well, to kind of cover those windows. I used to not do curtains very much in my builds, but I'm trying to get better at that because it's just, again, just more realistic. You wouldn't want to have people peeping in your bathroom or things like that. But Sims, that's, who cares? So, but yeah, that's kind of what we're working with. And then to fill in this space, I did a hallway table here, and again, more plants, adding in, some of the stuff from the country kitchen kit there, just some clutter things. And so I do, the vase, and then these two little plants, and then I do the hanging plants to kind of help fill it in a little bit more as well. So not too cluttered there, but just enough, I think. And then I just do a runner for the hallway, and I wanted a rug over here too, but it just, none of the rugs looked good, and so it's just, the runner ends and that space is just empty. So that's kind of what we're working with here. But I really wanted to try to make a rug work, but it just looked more stupid than not having a rug at all. And then I decided this hallway did not need to go all the way down, so I kind of adjusted this room a little bit as well. And I'm trying to kind of decide where I'm going to put everybody. And so first up is my seagull sim, and he's the one that is my teacher. If you haven't seen the videos this week, he's a teacher. He's also the eco innovator, so he kind of is idealistic. So I'm going to go ahead and read what it says, just in case you haven't seen the other videos, and that way you can kind of get an idea of who the sim is. And of course, this combines Taurus with the Chinese zodiac year of the dog. So their lucky colors are green, red, and purple. And you can see I went heavily with the green for him. But his name is Samwise, which means half-wise or simple and natural and pure. His traits are goofball, good, and outgoing. And it says, funny, loyal, and magnetic. Those born under the sign of the seagull like to keep things light and easy. They are idealists who also want the world to be more idealistic with them. They like discussing their philosophies about life with anyone who shares their opinions, though they are not confrontational enough to want to argue with someone about whose opinion is right or wrong. Some people consider seagulls to be immature, which is partially accurate. Seagulls usually grow up with a specific role in their family and never really shed this role. As they grow up, they will still likely do what their parents tell them to do, whether they agree with it or not. Seagulls take the attitude of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If they are comfortably secure in their current lifestyle, it's going to be difficult to get them to change it. All seagulls really want to do is have a good time, which can make it difficult for them to focus when it comes time to work. More than anything, though, seagulls are loyal, so they show up and do their duty in return for enough money to provide the basic security that they need to feel stable. Members of the sign like nice things but don't need to have them. They prefer love and friendship over money or success, and will only really work if they have to or if they find a field that they are generally interested in. In most cases, seagulls will reach a point in their adult life where they would be challenged to start acting their age. On their own, they would be content being a college student for the rest of their lives, but even they know that their lifestyle is not sustainable. Seagulls find daily grind of reality depressing, and there are few things more difficult to be around than a seagull in a bad mood. That this is an unfortunate truth that members of the sign will need to come to terms with. They attract people to them with their fun and easygoing nature, but when they are down and out, seagulls notoriously become moody, depressed complainers who can't seem to find a glass that isn't half empty. This is part of the reasons others find members of the sign to be immature. It goes on to say they are artistic by nature, come up with unusual solutions to common problems. They are free thinkers, believe strongly in social justice and equal rights for all people. And so just kind of like that. And so I did, a little pet. I thought that was cute, the little chemistry analyzer thing, so he can play around with making concoctions and things like that. But that's the seagull. Now we are on to our rattlesnake's room, and I forgot that my rattlesnake was male. So the room, I start off making it very heavily for a female. I don't change a whole lot about it though after the fact once I realized the mistake I made. I don't really change a whole lot about it. So you'll see I do go back in as I'm working on a different room. But his name is Rabis, which means powerful, dauntless person. He is in business in the investor branch. He's a mansion baron. His traits are materialistic, ambitious, and self-assured. And this combines the sign of Taurus with the Chinese zodiac year of the dragon. So for rattlesnakes, it says, strong, focused, and proud, those born under the primal zodiac sign of the rattlesnake have an insatiable drive and tireless work ethic. Few people can keep up with their energy, and even less can match their persistence. They know it too, and most rattlesnakes expect to be respected due to their inherent power and their earned success. So that's why I gave him the Master Suite, because of that. Like, they expect to be respected. Members of the sign like nice things and want to live the good life. A big, beautiful home tops the rattlesnake's priority list, followed by lots of nice things to show off. In truth, they are a bit overly impressed by shows of wealth and status. Deep down, what they really want is respect and adoration, but they inherently know that accumulating money is the easiest way to impress others, and they happen to be quite skilled at doing just that. And then careers are often the focal point for rattlesnakes. They do best when they're in charge. They tend to overload themselves. They need to learn how to use their leadership skills. They're incredibly stubborn and have a well-earned reputation for being inflexible. They're not tyrants, but they have high expectations of others. So that's kind of the sim we're working with here. Like I said, if you want to learn more and read like the full description, you can go to the Primal Zodiac site, which is linked in the description below. So some of the changes I made is, obviously I put a vanity in there, so I end up taking that out, which you'll see here in a little bit. And then this chair's a little bit more feminine, and that light, I changed like some of the lights, that chair, things like that. But other than that, the most part, this room stays the same. So I don't change too much about it, just kind of try to take away some of the feminine aspects of it. But yeah, I think this sim, like I said, I knew the rattlesnake needed to be in the Master Suite because they expect to be respected, and so it's just natural that they would go in there. And then for dragons, their lucky colors are gold, silver, and hoary, which is like a grayish white color. And so you can see I went heavily with that theme in this room overall. And I knew like artwork, you know, things like that, he probably spent way too much money on them, and I knew I wanted those aspects in there, just things that, you know, he bought and would have placed around the room. And again, the vanity is because I flaked and thought my rattlesnake was a girl, so unfortunately I made that mistake, but I do go back in and fix it, so it didn't turn out too bad. And then of course he has a little computer area there where he would spend a lot of time if he's at home working, things like that. So he has his own little area in his room to work from home, but he's often probably at work. And then I did some like trophies and such, you know, maybe he would get accolades for, you know, his business success or something like that, who knows. So he'd probably be pretty proud of those too. And then just little things to kind of decorate. I have that bowl there, which again he probably spent too much money on, maybe a business trip, and he found that bowl, and then this plate, things like that. And then a little plant, you know, I'm sure the other Sims would want to make sure that there's plants in every room of the house. So that's kind of what we're working with. And as I come across stuff, of course I jump around so I can put things where they need to be. But that's kind of what we're working with here. And I really liked how I did the vanity, so I'm kind of disappointed that, you know, it ended up being a male sim, and he's definitely not the type. Like, certainly males can have their own vanities and such, but he's just not that type of sim, I don't think. So now we are on to our yak, who is our botanist sim, and her name is Yolante, which means strong. Her traits are proper, perfectionist, and foodie, and her career, of course, is gardener under the botanist branch. And this combines Taurus with the year of the ox. So stubborn determination is the hallmark of the yak. Those born under the sign simply do not accept no for an answer. Hard work and dedication to a cause will earn you the highest respect in a yak's eyes. Members of the sign tend to see things as black or white, meaning there is rarely a middle ground to any situation. People's actions are either wrong or right. Things are either good or bad. People are either hard workers or lazy slobs. The word compromise does not exist in the vocabulary of the yak. They know how they feel and have no reason to question it. Yaks hate change. They prefer steady, dependable routine where they can focus their efforts on moving forward one day at a time. Working is where they feel most comfortable, whether in their career or on their homes, in their gardens or on their hobbies. Yaks tend to live for future goals rather than for the moment, and it can take a lot of convincing to get them to take a break. It's too bad too, because a well-rested and serene yak can be one of the best companions to have around. Finding a balance between work and life, or rather living for the future versus living for the present, should be an important goal for everyone born under the sign. And talks about how different dictators were yaks. They believe passionately and resolutely that, on their world thoughts and their views. They can be quiet and thoughtful and quite empathetic, but they do share their passionate political views. They have endless determination. They don't need to be in charge, but they need to have enough freedom to, do what they need to do, things like that. And so, that's the yak's room. I know we jumped back over to our rattlesnake's room here once I figured out that, hey, he's a male, and I needed to make some changes there. But for our yak, I wanted to go with blue because their lucky colors are red, blue, and purple. And I just wanted to go like a dependable room. So that's kind of what we're working with here. So I did the pinstripes, and they have their little desk area as well. And then I do put some plants in there. Just, obviously they're a gardener, and so she has like plants, and I think those maybe would be like some herbs and such that maybe she didn't have down in the garden that she uses. She has her little safes that she uses as her bedside tables, and just so she can hide, lock away anything important, things like that, like just dependable, steady, nothing too extravagant. I put the clock in there because they're really concerned with work, and so she would want to make sure, she's up on time, getting ready for the day, doing what she needs to do, things like that. And then I was just trying to, put things around that made me think of yak. So I did put some hair things. I don't see her, well, she doesn't. I didn't put a lot of makeup on her, and so I just put, hair things, and she does share a bathroom. She has her brushes and such in here, some cookbooks. She might read those in her downtime, and then of course little bookshelves with the different plants on the ends. Lots of plants in here as well. A little garden caddy to take care of the plants that she has up here, and then just a rug, like nothing too extravagant, too fancy. And then I like the idea of this artwork. It's pretty not over the top. And then I do put some over here that are like these ones, so it kind of reminds me of like farming and things like that. So that's kind of what we're working with for our yak room. And now we are on to our buffalo, who is one of my favorite sims, and I think her room might be one of my favorite rooms as well. And so I put her down here just because they don't really worry about taking the back seat to others. So her name is Buta, which means one who heals with plants. She's a floral designer. She does have the mansion bear and aspiration. They do like nice things. She's proper, snob, and loves the outdoors. And this combines the sign of Taurus with the Chinese zodiac year of the sheep. So it says hardworking, patient, and intelligent. Those born under the sign of the buffalo have no problem taking a back seat to more dominant personalities. So that's why she's kind of shoved off into this room down here. Dependable, trustworthy, and kind. This is a sign of quiet, well-mannered individuals whose reputation is as important to them as their appearance. Buffalo have their own standards to live up to and can be nearly impossible to convince to stray from their moral and ethical beliefs. They are mostly calm and peaceful, but can become extremely aggressive if pushed too far. Buffalo are mildly social, but otherwise not very adventurous. Unlike some other signs, they don't mind having a routine to follow as long as it serves some kind of purpose for them. Their preference usually comes through in their career choice, but not always. Buffaloes have great stores of passion and resilience, just waiting to take on a worthy project. But they don't bring that passion to what they're doing if they flat out don't like it. I can't read today. They can come across as lazy and nervous when they're not well balanced. They dislike change as much as they dislike making important decisions. They don't like being leaders on projects. They like to go on autopilot and follow their routine. When balanced, though, buffaloes are elegant and patient individuals with great taste in food, clothes, and decor. They're gracious hoes who enjoy displays of wealth and generosity. They like luxuries of all kinds, including but especially good food, wine, and entertainment. Most buffaloes have nice homes and enjoy the beauty of the natural world. And then it talks about how they're both intelligent and artistic, but not very entrepreneurial. They like to spend time alone. But they do prefer to working in groups and having a specific role to play. Don't mind routine, and that gives them a sense of security. They like money and are good with it, but they can spend a little too often. And then a lot of people would be surprised at how artistic they are, and this is usually a hidden talent. And it talks about how musician, dancer, florist are good signs. They really like art and music, and so they like old art, and so they can become a history teacher, antique stiller. And so I really tried to combine that in this room. So you have like some more old-timey antique type pieces like the bed, but you also have more extravagant, fancy things in here as well, especially like her vanity and like her purse and things like that. So I really tried to combine both aspects of her style in here. And if you saw her, when I created her, like her personal style is kind of it's bold but kind of fashionable and put together, but also comfortable and flowy. And I don't even know how to describe my buffalo. Like, I just absolutely love her, and I think she turned out really, really cool. And so I'm really, really happy. And you can see, like, on her vanity, I had some custom content pieces that are a little bit more fancy and things like that, and that might be where she splurges a little bit with her money, and things like that. So that's kind of what we're working with here. But I love this room. Purple's I don't really have a favorite color, but purple is always kind of at the top of everything when I think of favorite colors, and so that's kind of what we were working with for my buffalo, and I think her room's probably my favorite in the house. And now we are on to our kangaroo sim, which he has 2 rooms, because the kangaroo is also known to be work focused, which is kind of a trend among all these sims here. Even the ones that aren't so work focused, they are very dependable and loyal workers. So my kangaroo, this combines Taurus with the Chinese zodiac year of the horse. His name is Caden, which means fighter. He's a freelancer under the programmer branch. His aspirations fabulously wealthy. He's hot-headed, ambitious, and genius. And so since he's a freelancer and he is so work focused, I wanted to give him his own office space, and so that's the room next door. So I kind of combine these 2 rooms as far as style goes. And for him, he's kind of a complex sim. I'm not really sure why my brain took this route, but like for his look, I kind of went with Australia, outdoorsy, beachy vibes for his look. And then in here I went very like wood toned type aspect for everything, so there's a lot of brown and wood in here, but it still kind of has like that beachy outdoorsy vibe at the same time. I really don't know. This is what I had in my mind, and that's kind of what I went with. It's not too cluttered, it's pretty simple, but he focused a lot on his work, so he wouldn't need a lot of stuff in here. But it says those born under the sign of the kangaroo can be difficult to figure out. On one hand, they appear to be relatively friendly, hardworking individuals who work too much and are always focused on something. else. Get in the way of their goals though and watch out. Few signs have the explosive temper of a kangaroo. They don't mean to offend, but the hot-headed, heavy-hearted kangaroo lives in an inner world of extremes and has a hard time realizing that others don't see everything that is going on behind their focused exterior. To this sign, life is a battle and must be won at all costs. Anyone not with them must be against them. They are obsessed with the future and future success. Few signs are as determined as the kangaroo. Once they have decided to achieve a goal, they will pour themselves into the challenge, often working late into the night to follow on an idea before it slips away. And that's again why I wanted him to have like his own little office space here in the house. They're more creative than they seem. They have innovative thinking. They're stubborn yet passionate drive often overwhelms them. They have a hard time staying balanced between working and living, which they view as the same thing. They want to be admired and appreciated. Few others are capable of matching their ambition and motivation, and they can't understand why those around them don't seem to acknowledge their efforts. They prefer the rare opportunity. Kangaroos fail to realize that those close to them prefer the rare opportunity of having them present in the moment over getting to share in their future success. Their drive and determination, they can truly succeed at anything. They are very independent. And so, though they need freedom and independence, it's most healthy. I cannot speak today. Goodness, sorry guys. It is most healthy for kangaroos to work with other people. This keeps them balanced. They're naturally talented in marketing, advertising, and public relations, but they're also good at succeeding by selling their services on a freelance basis. And so that's kind of what I went for with this kangaroo. And so now we are on to our last sim, which is my jackal. I really like her room as well. My jackal I named Jawal, which means the one with a passionate soul and reserved nature will keep calm, strict, and ambitious throughout the life. And this combines Taurus with the Chinese zodiac year of the snake. And it says, in the animal kingdom, jackals are often mistakenly thought as lazy scavengers who don't like to take risks or venture outside their own territory. In the Primal Zodiac, those born under the sign of the jackal are often misrepresented in the same way. To be fair, members of the sign don't like to take risks and feel most comfortable on their own turf and favor long-term survival over momentary satisfaction. And they are notoriously hard to read, often look bored, disinterested, and lazy. They are constantly reevaluating situations and making plans for the future, though. And they have a deep-seated need for long-term security, which heavily influences most of their behavior. And so that's kind of what they are like. They have a hard time living for the moment, are prone to depression. They have a creative side, and so they kind of struggle trying to decide whether to find work that gives into that or find financially secure work. And so I actually made her a writer. I think for her, she was able to do both, do her creative side, but also be very successful at it. So she's an author, and of course her aspiration is best-selling author. She's gloomy, she's an art lover and a music lover, because it does talk about how they like those things as well. So you can see I put a lot of pictures around her room, and then I also put a little stereo in there as well. So that's my jackal space, which I really enjoyed her space as well. And then finally we have our actual entertainment living room area, and so I put a huge screen TV here, some couches. I originally wanted to put I could see them having a pool table, but I was going to put in a ping pong table, but of course there's just not enough room. I thought about maybe a karaoke in here. They could do karaoke, but again, just not enough room. So I do put in a stereo here as well, and then I put in a mini fridge and a microwave, and so they could have snacks up here. And then I do put a little gaming station over here, but you can see I was trying to fit in other things, but that's the only thing that ended up fitting. So that's kind of what we have here. And then of course more plants. You gotta have all the plants here. That's just kind of goes along with these guys. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And then just some more prints for the wall. Very heavily art focused. I see all the Sims, whether they appreciate the art for the art or they just like it because it's expensive. I can see them all enjoying that very, very much. So now we are on to our walkthrough, and as always, I do leave screenshots at the end. Again, I know this video is really, really long, so if you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much. Let me know what you think about this build, what you think about each of the different rooms, how I did, things like that. I really, really enjoyed these Sims, and there's my little teacher, Samwise. You saw Yolante in the garden area, and then this is the little outdoor area, and you'll see Buta up front, which I think you already saw her as we came in. But yeah, and then, you know, just the walkthrough. That is our kangaroo there, Kaden. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed this build. And it's kind of amazing to me, there's Jawal riding away, how these guys all tie together so well in this build. But that's the thing, you have the underlying commonality of the Taurus zodiac in all these guys, and so you have that commonality in there, and then, you know, the Chinese zodiac influences there as well, and that was of course Rabis, which you just saw. But I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here to enjoy the rest of the walkthrough and then the screenshots. Again, let me know what you think. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell notification so you are notified when I do upload, and give this video a like. It would really help me out. I really want to grow this channel, and I will see you guys next week as we start on the second house under Taurus. We're going to start creating those Sims, and then we'll do their build as well. That will be for the next 2 weeks, and I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you all on Monday. Bye.